number 10, giving back. And we have the good doctor with us, Paul Eastfold. We also have my wife. She hasn't been on here for what? It's been a month?
It's been a couple months.
It's been a couple months. About time. And of course, you guys know Dave Stanton. He's our fill-in man. And
Fill in. That's what I do best. I fill a chair.
Because Ricky couldn't make it. And Ricky, if you're watching, how you doing? And
get well.
Get back with us soon.
Yeah.
And so with that, that's just a short introduction, Paul. It's all yours, baby.
All right. Hey, good morning. Happy Sabbath, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy Sabbath.
All right. This lesson 10 title is Giving Back. How many people like to give back?
I know lots of people who like to give back.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, Christmas season, you give things back.
It makes people feel good to give back.
Okay.
Some
Yeah.
people.
What kind of things make you feel good to give back?
Tithe?
Tithe? That makes you feel good?
Yeah.
How's that?
Because he kept your heart beating while you earn the money.
Okay. Dave?
Helping someone who is obviously down on his or her luck.
Okay. How about you?
Oh, I like that. Well, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I don't like giving back. but
Okay, finally got a guy to fess up.
Okay.
I like to keep it all myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
also love to give back because that way I feel that I am contributing with the community, with people who are in need, and that makes me happy.
And you're also complying with God's will.
Okay. All right. Well, let's focus that thought a little bit. Let's go to the memory text. Revelation 14:13. Someone want to read that?
And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labor, and their works do follow them. Now, when I was sitting here a few minutes ago, Lisa said, this is sad.
Yeah. It
Well,
is.
and I disagree.
What's sad?
This lesson,
Oh, yeah?
I find it in some way sad.
In what way?
Well,
In what way is when I was going through the lesson, if you live too long, you might outlive your assets.
Okay.
If you get sick and you're young, you pass away before you're able to enjoy the what you reap. I mean, there's just all these scenarios that you can have. But giving back is not sad. I mean, it furthers God's word, but just life is unpredictable.
I was thinking, what's the harder scenario? Moses' time giving back or our time giving back?
Oh, I think our time.
And why so?
Because we have so many distractions and so many places we can put our wealth that we're distracted from what we're really here for.
So it's tougher now that Satan's getting close to the end, running out of time.
Yeah.
You can expect it, huh?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to bring bad things.
Yep.
Of course,
He already is.
Of course, we live in a time of tremendous abundance as well.
Yeah.
And
True,
so
true.
with great possessions comes great responsibility. And
Yeah.
and you were going to probably cite that one parable, weren't you?
No, I was just going to state something that I had heard before. There is a lot of storage units.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
tear
in
down my
this-
barns and make more, right?
Make it bigger.
What's new under the sun, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so that, along as people get older, they almost naturally begin to worry about the future. Anybody here getting older and worrying about the future? And if so, what are you worrying about?
Well, I know.
Everybody but Dave and his wife, I mean, they're forever young, obviously.
That's true, but I think 78 is getting older. Looking at 80 here pretty soon.
I thought that was a record, 78.
Oh, that's right. I used to have some of those, in fact.
Yeah.
Well, and there's angels in heaven right now that are 10,000 plus years old that are
Yeah.
He's a
so-
pup. He's a pup.
He's a baby. Look at the booby.
Yeah. And they said, yeah, we remember 78. You know.
Crawling around here.
It takes a while to go back that far, but
Yeah.
no, with
Interesting.
perfect memory, it wouldn't take
funny.
nothing, would it?
No, no. So as people get older, they almost naturally begin to worry about the future. The most common fears are, interestingly enough, you're going to die too soon.
Yeah.
We can check that off the list right here.
Okay, before the family is taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay, put it in perspective. Living too long, outliving one's assets or savings. I can identify with that. I was kind of forced into early retirement with the COVID thing that went on.
Oh.
And, I thought that I was going to be able to have a little bit more in my nest egg. And now, if I don't watch it, what I have put away may run out before I die.
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're still young.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. I'm kind of the other way. I am not yet retired. Haven't done any early retirement. Early retirement is something I can't do anymore. But I could retire. But I chose to semi-retire and work 3 days a week. Mainly because I like staying active. I don't like sitting around. I enjoy the work I do, and the income is great. And what we do with that income, since we don't have a lot of expenses, is we have an opportunity now to give to these projects, to Hope Channel and to what's the name of the other one that we give to?
Amazing facts.
No, it's not a TV program. It's worldwide.
ADRA.
And other things like that.
ADRA.
Yeah,
Gospel outreach. you're
gospel
right.
outreach. That's
Yeah.
that's the biggie. But we have a systematic plan of giving to that, and as long as I have income, we can do that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I feel great. I don't. I mean, other than my AFib, I finally got the all clear from the heart specialist that my heart's not going to explode on me. So we got a treadmill. I've been on that thing almost every day since. Dropping
That's
weight,
awesome.
feeling better, sleeping.
Excellent.
So my plan is to continue. My boss asked me, when are you going to retire? And I said, well, we'll reevaluate when I hit 80.
Boy, you're
So,
doing great.
which brings up the question, I mean, is it biblical to retire? Have you guys thought about that?
I don't know that I ever remembered anybody retiring back then because they had such big families.
Yeah.
That to take care
and in
of.
Genesis, it says, by the sweat of thy brow, thou shalt eat bread all the days of thy life. So it suggests that we work until the day we die. And we see that model played out. Now you're retired, you're not retired, or are you retired and then went back to work?
No, I never quit.
You never quit.
No.
Yeah.
Well, look back at Daniel's time when Daniel was doing his prophecies and spreading God's word. How old was he?
Daniel was an old man.
He was in his 80s.
Yeah.
Most people only lived to 50 in those days. So Daniel didn't retire.
Okay.
That kind of is on the other side of the book. Ellen G. White, she published her best known book, The Desire of Ages, at 70.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So we got a lot of time we can still work.
There's no biblical reference to retirement that I've ever found.
Except for by the sweat of thy brow, thou shalt work all the days of thy life.
Well, yeah,
Suggesting
but
that
that's the opposite of retirement.
Oh, right.
you keep going.
So you're saying no biblical reference to the actual
To
ceasing of
the
work.
act of ceasing.
you
I
know,
gotcha.
I've got to say this really fast. Most women, they work till the day they die. I mean, they're doing dishes, they're doing laundry, floors, walking the dog. No, I'm just kidding. Entertaining their grandkids.
Speaking of
and
which, Lisa,
sons.
I've got a long list of things for you to
Yeah.
get done this
Oh
weekend.
yeah.
My wife was talking about that last week. She almost brought it up in the Sabbath school class, but decided against it. Women, especially in today's world, have two jobs.
Yeah.
They work outside the home and they work inside the home. We men think that we work hard. We have one job.
Well, yeah, because men typically have
I had 4.
You have 4 jobs?
I had.
4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. When you're a physician, you're multi-purpose.
Yeah.
As soon as you get up in the morning.
Yeah, plus physicians
Yeah.
probably have long, long, long days, right?
Long days, yeah. And then at night when you're on call.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, the board, what they call it, the door swings both ways. It just depends on who you are and what you're doing. There's another one here that one of the most common fears, catastrophic illness.
Catastrophic illness.
All one's resources could go at one time, and that is so true. Oh my goodness, don't get sick.
So how much time do you spend worrying about that?
Me? Not much.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't even consider it.
But they've got a lot of people out there. Let's say that you didn't have the bucks that who's that guy that plays the golf that got in the accident?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, if he didn't have the money in the bank, and he crunches all this stuff up, he may not have had the money to keep going.
Oh, that's right.
It would have taken him out. And many other people, have that happen to them.
Sure.
So catastrophic illness could be a problem, or mental and or physical disability. Oh, that is a big one.
Why are you looking at me when you said mental disability?
I'm just trying to see if you're locked on there. No, because, mental, you start to drift.
Gotcha.
So who will take care of me? What's the question there? Who will take care of me?
That's an interesting question, but that's something else I've never considered because I always thought God would take care of me.
That's a very good point. It depends on how much you want him to take care of you. Okay, if you want to go out and be crazy and live a life that's irresponsible, you could run into problems there too.
I was going to say the playbook is the Bible, and so if you're just going to go out and you're going to party and you're going to do whatever you feel like doing, and you're saying in your mind God will take care of me, that's kind of a foolish way of thinking. That's presumption, isn't it? That's not faith.
True.
But
Well,
on the
how
other
about-
hand, if you're like what you're talking about, like faith, so to live by faith and okay, so God will take care of me. Does that preclude the steps that we should take to maybe put some money away or
responsibility
or to
that you have.
get insurance if you can afford it, and all those other things that come along with responsible living? Because I think that's what God really wants out of us, is to live responsibly.
We
Right.
need to take care of our families. That's an
Right.
important point.
That's for sure.
Anything after that, that's open for discussion.
Yeah. It's a big discussion too.
Yeah.
My goodness, yes.
Well, I was going to say there's so many reckless kids out there that are drinking and driving, and they don't realize that if they get paralyzed, like we knew a kid that he has got more metal in his spine than any person I know. And it's because he went off a bridge. And who was going to take care of him? His parents, his
The
girlfriend.
state.
State, yeah. And then forever he's ruined and disabled.
Yeah. So those are those are fears that can definitely happen.
Yeah.
There's interesting comment here from Ellen White, who wrote, all these fears, the ones that we've been discussing, originate with Satan. How is that?
Oh, okay. So, I mean,
Fear.
because the Bible tells us not to worry about tomorrow, right? Because sufficient is evil, sufficient is the evil in the day thereof. Or how's that go? But anyways,
Sufficient for the day is the evil thereof.
yeah. And so it says that the heathen worry about the things, about, what they're going to wear, what they're going to eat, and all these things. But, the Christian, as long as we're doing God's work and we're doing his will and fulfilling his will in our lives, we shouldn't really worry about anything.
Amen.
Well, Satan's main task with believers is discouragement.
Shake them loose.
What can I do to make you give up on this? On everybody else, it's totally different. Just distract them. You got them.
Yeah, he's already got him. Why bother him anymore? I mean, don't rock the boat.
Right,
You already got this guy 1 foot in the grave, and he hates God, so let's just not disturb that. But the Christian, you're right, the trials and tribulations, but those are all what they have to go through God first. God has to allow those things to happen. So God must then have a plan for us. If the devil's coming before the Lord and says, hey, so we got this servant Dave over here, he's forthright and upright and without, sin and all these other things. I'm trying to like copy the Job story here, but in all reality, I wonder if that's really how it takes place with each and every one of us. And the Lord's,
We're told, aren't we, that he will not allow us to be tempted beyond that
Beyond.
which we can resist through him.
which is different for each one of us then.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so when commenting on these fears, and just reiterating here, Ellen G. White wrote, all these fears originate with Satan, and then a little more context. If they would take the position which God would have them, their last days might be their best and happiest. They should lay aside anxiety and burdens and occupy their time as happily as they can and be ripening up for heaven. What do you think of that?
I think that's
I'm
pretty
getting
cool.
pretty ripe.
Yeah? Yeah, it can get pretty ripe there, that's for sure. Okay, well, so if they would take the position which God would have them, in other words, knowing God's will. And how do you
Not
know?
just knowing, but doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we're never too old to do something.
okay. Yeah. So it takes some, not only it takes some planning, in your own realm, it takes some faith with God to take care of you. And where are you going to go with your life and the people that are around you? Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, well, that takes care of Saturday's lesson pretty well. Let's go to Sunday. The rich fool. My first question here, before I read it again and put it in context, is why foolish? Why was this rich guy foolish?
I think because he had his priorities all wrong.
And what are the priorities that we run into?
Our priorities should be on God and his work, doing his bidding, rather than taking care of ourselves so much. If we do his work, his bidding, we will be taken care of. If we strive constantly to add wealth to our system, that's all we're going to get, and it's going to burn up.
Okay.
So I wrote down, those who lay up treasures for himself, but lose your soul, or you can love God, give glory, honor, trust, you will have that treasure stored in heaven
Okay.
instead of building another barn.
Let's take a look at Luke 12 and see what the physician Luke said. Luke 12, 16 through 21. Someone pull that up and read it for us.
Luke 12, 16 through 21. I'll just use my handy dandy app here.
Oh, nice.
Then he spoke a parable to them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully, and he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater. I got to load the rest. And build greater, and there I will store all my crops and my goods, and I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry.
Is that reckless?
But God said to him, fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then those whose will those things be which you have provided. So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God.
Definitely reckless.
Oh,
Well, it's just,
Yeah,
I mean,
reckless.
besides being a bad investment, I mean, we talked about that already before in the podcast, but, laying treasures up on this earth is just a bad investment.
Well, it
It's-
says rust
It's
and
not
moth.
last. Yeah. Where rust and moth doth corrupt, and thieves break in and steal. I mean, I've had things stolen. I've also had things like where you leave them.
Yeah.
Like if you don't start your car at least once every 6 months, the things just, and rats will build nests in it, and
Yeah.
it just starts returning to nature.
So does that support the idea that you shouldn't be doing what this person in Luke 12:16 through 21 says? It's what Jesus said. Let me read it here. Though the message is broader than this, one could argue that this was a story Jesus told about what not to do in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So how many people are doing the right thing in retirement versus the wrong thing in retirement these days in that light?
Well, I think that's
Quite a few.
relates back to how many people will be saved versus how many people will not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why are they not saved? I mean, they're all they have to do is accept it. But many of them are just saying, "No, I don't want that."
The love of money is the root of all evil.
And I'm glad you didn't say money, because so many people
A
misquote
lot
that.
of people
don't they?
misquote that and say
Yeah.
money is root. And there's nothing wrong with having money.
Yeah.
As long as it's properly used. But it's
Right.
the love of the money that gets us into trouble.
Yeah.
And so if we have, what does the millionaire want?
More.
2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to build them barns. Well, in all honesty, I mean, so, we in America, we tend to preclude ourselves from the idea of being rich, right? But for the rest of the world, and I would say the whole Western world, just not America, but the whole modern Western world, is considered very wealthy in comparison to the third world countries. And so they're looking
That's
at
right.
us while we're sitting here talking on the podcast saying, well, the rich man's the other person. It's not me. But they're saying, no,
Yeah.
you're the rich man.
Yeah.
And so, like, in essence, we're all sitting here. We are representative of that rich man. I mean, God has blessed us tremendously in this country.
It comes down to stewardship.
It comes down
What
to stewardship.
do we do with what we have been given? And I think it's all a gift.
Oh
It's
yes.
parallels with the bushel. Do you want to keep the word of God under a basket, under,
Oh, it
kept?
does.
It kind of parallels that, because the more you can give, like we knew a guy that gave tithe, and then also, I forget the name of that, but he gave a little extra, and he was so blessed. He was really blessed.
God sends rain on the just and on the unjust.
Exactly.
That's right.
Okay. So in Luke 12:19, the problem is the attitude toward it. Jesus' words, "Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry," express the real issue here. And then in the next paragraph there, it says, "This man's aims were no higher than those of the beasts and that perish. He lived as if there were no God, no heaven, no future life, as if everything he possessed were his own, and he owed nothing to God or man." That's out of Christ's Object Lessons. Wow. Does that sound like the majority of people have a little bit of that disease?
Sure.
Sounds like the disease I had before I came back to the church, and I still struggle with.
Really?
Oh, when I
Oh,
first
yeah.
started paying tithe as a child, that's a lot of money. What, I could use that.
Yeah.
So it says on here, man's aims were no higher than those of the beasts. The beast, is that like the beasts of the field that can't
Yeah.
get enough? They're just eating and they're like, oh, I got these hills full of green grass. Is that what it is? Like, is that what it's paralleling to?
Well, they have no other purpose. I think that's,
yeah.
that's what
Right.
it refers
Huh.
to. They don't have another purpose.
It's like
They don't have
it's like when you throw a chicken bone to your dogs, Lisa, and one will grab it and growl at the others and run off into the doghouse,
Yeah.
or go bury it and then come back to see if they can get more. They don't
That's
care
right.
about the others. It's just all about them.
It's crazy what Satan has us up to. Let's pull up Matthew 24,
Man.
44 to 46, and take a look at that too. Matthew 24, 44 to 46. This is where Jesus counseled those waiting for his second coming, not just to watch, but to continue working as well. Go ahead and read it.
Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household, to give them food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find him doing so.
So are we pleasing our master? The way we live?
That should be our goal.
Yeah.
It should be.
Okay. All right. So the rich fool, why was he foolish? Because
Make those barns.
he thought what he was doing was the way you should do it. And what was he backing himself into? Oh my goodness, now I've got 5 barns and I've got security issues and I've got, this and that and I've got all the rest of this stuff. I'm not going to give it to anybody. Heavens, I'm not going to do that. I got to build another barn and another barn and another barn. Sound like some of the billionaires that, are around?
Oh, yeah. They're never satisfied.
I just saw something on the news, a $200 million yacht, something to do that they parked too close to the coast. And it drifted into the rocks.
Oh, whoops.
Wow.
And now he's, if he
Oh, yeah.
I saw
I think
that.
I heard about that.
if he didn't have all this stuff to worry about, right?
But in this guy's defense, that's what we're taught from youth is to gain that security through monetary means. You have to have all these things, and if you don't, you're criticized because you don't. I remember being a young kid, and some of the older generations, non-Christian older generations would tell me, you need to join the union, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to go to school, you need to do all these things, you need to start saving your money. All good things, right? But it was a very humanistic, view of things. And with, what's your future? You're going to work your whole entire life to ease your last 10 years of existence on earth. That's the idea, And that, and again, those aren't bad principles, but at the same time, as a child of God, we sort of, by the world's perspective, we have our priorities mixed up a little bit because now we've made our priority God and God's work, and we're putting all of our efforts and all of our monies or whatever into that, whereas we're kind of like our retirement is somewhat not as important anymore. Or our future, last 10 years or however many it is that they say you're supposed to prepare for,
We knew a doctor, and we were pretty good friends with him, and his name was Dion Hansen, and his wife owned a emporium, was a 2-story antique barn or huge emporium. I mean, it was huge. And she stored everything into this barn that she had built. And I remember him getting these roll-off dumpsters, and he says, I need you and Lisa to come help me. I'm cleaning up my property, and I'm throwing some stuff away. And we pull up in our tiny little car, and he was throwing away this antique furniture.
Priceless
And
antiques.
she was in a wheelchair.
Had this big roll-off dumpster. He was just throwing the stuff in there.
And she couldn't stop him. She was in her wheelchair with all her diamond rings, with her blanket over her lap, and she looked like she had this big hair and a lot of makeup on, and she had people in there working like servants and everything. And he wanted to live in his car. He had Carrie put hooks on it. And it was a sob story. He had a Saab, a Subaru. It was this bad sob story.
It was a Saab, the Saab, SAAB.
And no matter how he tried to act poor, he couldn't look poor. And his hair was just perfect, and he ate to the glory of God. I remember trying to feed him, and he's like, "No, honey, I had my walnuts already and my handful of grains, But he was such a neat person, interesting. He's probably passed by now.
Yeah.
But what an interesting person.
He was out there doing his brakes that one time. Remember on his Saab?
Yeah.
On his Saab.
Yeah.
It was another Saab story, and he had like the little medical forceps holding things away.
He was interesting.
So what is good about giving things away? How does that solve these issues that we're talking about?
I think it gives us a better understanding of who owns all that we have.
Yeah.
I think our biggest problem is in thinking that this is all ours. I have accumulated all this wealth. This is mine. But if you look at it in another light, you have been granted these things by God, then giving is a much more natural thing.
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's go on to Monday and look at this topic. It's really good. You can't take it with you. Okay, and then, isn't it so true? You can't take it with you. You get to a certain point in your life, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
We have this saying around home from time to time about gold, people accumulating gold, and what they're storing up is paving material.
Paving material.
Paving
Yeah,
material.
yeah.
The streets of
yeah,
hell will
yeah.
be paved with
Okay,
gold.
and diamonds and
And
pearls.
what good is it to us?
It's pavement.
Exactly.
They're hanging
But you
pavement
notice
around
we
their
like
necks.
It's
we
just
like
rocks.
twinkly
It's
stuff.
rocks.
Women like twinkly stuff.
Do they? I know
do.
some men who like twinkly stuff too, but
Oh,
What kind of men are we talking about, Dave?
I don't know.
Oh, my
that's
goodness.
another story.
Yeah,
That's another topic.
Okay, there's a quote here from Billy Graham. Someone once asked him what surprised him most out of life now that he was old. He was in his 60s at the time. Graham's answer was what?
Brevity.
It goes by so quickly.
And we have younger people here and older people. Let's give a little bit of comparison. What is the thing that surprises you most about life at your age now?
I would say just that, how quickly it's gone. I know, I'm 50, I'm going to be 53.
I can't remember that far back.
Oh, come on, Dave.
When I was a kid, I was immortal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
The end would never come, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's how I felt.
can't put it in perspective.
Now, that is absolutely precise. I can't
turn
believe
that
how
down,
fast
Lisa.
time has gone by.
Turn this down.
Wow. So it's just too short.
Yep.
Who was that guy in the Bible that asked for a little bit more time?
Oh, Hezekiah? was it?
Hezekiah?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, he got
It's
what?
a guy, yeah.
15 more
Hezekiah.
years, or whatever it was. Yeah, he figured he could use some more time, and the Lord did give it to him.
But what do you use it for?
I thought he gave it to a good use.
Yeah, he showed the kings of Babylon and the all of the weaknesses of Jerusalem, didn't he?
Yeah, if I had 15 more years granted to me just to accumulate wealth, do you suppose it would be granted?
No, I don't know that God has that in mind.
Yeah.
And why is that God knows that so many people just couldn't handle all of that stuff that he could give them?
Because he knows everything about us.
Yeah, it would trip people up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wrote that down.
But
I just
not all
didn't write
people.
that on Monday, but I did write it down somewhere in here. The lotto, the things people do. They want to get that inheritance from their grandma and grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
They all of a sudden start coming around. They want that lotto, that winning lotto ticket, I'm trying to think what else. So they go to Las Vegas in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
They do all kinds of stuff to obtain money. And they try to embezzle the systems wherever they can to get it, and
Okay.
it's just-
Okay. So with the phrase "you can't take it with you," what's the good thing about estate planning?
Okay, we were talking about this on the way to church. So, should we give our properties and our homes to the work of God?
Mm-hmm.
Or because we have children, do we set them up with it? And, it's a big question because we were talking, okay, so what are our children like? What are they going to do with it? Is it going to do them good if we pass that on to them? Are they going to squander it? What's going to be the result of that? Is it going to help them?
There's a part in this Monday's lesson, the last paragraph. In the simplest terms, we can say that because God is the owner of everything, it would be logical to conclude from a biblical perspective that when we are finished with what God has entrusted to us, we should return to Him, the rightful owner, what is left, comma, once the needs of loved ones are met.
Okay.
I thought that was key.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I've known this to happen in the, where people feel compelled to give everything that they own to God when they pass, only to leave their children in despair, and in want. And that's, I don't think, how God has planned it to be. But at the but there's a flip side to that as well. Are the children capable of handling such responsibilities? And that's a consideration as well, because I've seen kids take their inheritance and spend it foolishly, and it didn't do them any good at all. And it would have been better off for the parents to probably, a more wiser decision would have been to probably give it to evangelism or to.
There again, that's an
very-
individual thing.
very personal thing.
It's different with every situation.
Yeah. And God sort of leaves it up to us to manage it. I don't think He criticizes us one way or another. I mean, we do it according to what our conscience tells us, and sometimes we're right, and sometimes we're not.
My dad's sister was a movie star, and she played in as Hitler's wife in one of the movies. She was really blonde with these beautiful eyes, and anyways, so she played in the movies, and she never had any children, and she left all her belongings to her church and St. Jude, I believe, because she said no one came around me, and so I left everything that I could think of and everything I had to the church and St. Jude for the
Nobody wanted
children.
nothing to do with her while she was alive, so she figured, well, in my death, they won't miss me either, and I'll just give all my things away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another example of it. Everybody's different.
Yeah, everyone's
Exactly.
different.
Yeah.
So why is it so difficult for most people to realize that what they have belongs to somebody else? God?
Huh.
Why do they have such a hard time that everything I have belongs to God? I mean, the whole planet, it belongs to God.
Well, he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills.
Yeah.
It's
That's right.
called the American work ethic. You get what you work for, and it belongs to you.
And what's dangerous about that?
Well, it's a fallacy. It doesn't belong to you. It's all going to turn to ash. And it's not going to do anyone any good. In fact, it can do a lot of harm to you personally.
Does Satan use that trick pretty a lot?
Oh, only every
Pretty
day.
a lot? Is that a good thing?
We understood.
I talk like that.
I talk like that all the
Okay,
time.
all right, yeah. That's how I think he's got most of the world, people in the world, tied up with that very one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great distraction.
Yeah.
You have fat and happy, you have everything you want and everything you need, and who needs God, right?
It's a false sense of it's a
Security.
false sense of security.
Yeah.
I was kind of torn into thinking, do we save up all this food and put it, underneath our house for, bad times? And I went down there and I decided I was going to get some hot cocoa. And when I pulled it out, I opened it up and it had moisture in it. And it wasn't very good. It didn't taste very good. So I'm over here storing things that are going bad, I think.
Okay.
We're
Rust and
moth
moth and rust.
and everything else.
Moth and thieves do not
And
break
mold.
through and steal. Yeah, right.
And in this case, water.
Okay.
And mold.
Okay. Let's skip over to Tuesday's lesson real quick. Down at the bottom, I think there's something we need to look up there and read. Proverbs 27:24.
27:24.
Yeah. Another thought in the spoke of the wheel of life.
For riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations.
Expand on that.
Well, it's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, okay, so let's say, for example, you amass great wealth on this earth at a young age and you're able to enjoy it for a long, long time. There's still that day of reckoning. there's still that time when you're going to pass and you're going to leave it behind you. And what's going to happen to your legacy? I mean, even Nebuchadnezzar wasn't able to preserve his net legacy, even though on every brick that he built with said, Babylon, may it last forever. And now it's sitting in ruins out there in, was it Iraq or Iran or somewhere like that?
Iraq.
And it's just where jackals have are running through the palaces and owls lodge in the towers.
Not even the temple in Jerusalem was forever.
Yeah.
He said that not one stone would be left upon another.
Wow.
And I read an article about that. The reason there was not one stone left upon the other was because of the amount of gold that was in that building, that the marauders wanted every ounce of it, and they melted everything, and all the stones were moved.
Wow.
Just like the prophecy stated.
Interesting. So, why aren't riches forever?
Well, some riches, I would argue, are forever. Not the ones we see here on earth, and of course that's the context of what it's asking there. So because everything burns at the last, everything here that we see is that materialistic, and it has to burn because it's all been infected with disease and bad bacteria and you name it. God has to thoroughly cleanse this earth. I mean, one small tiny microbe that was left over from the old earth would completely pollute the new earth. It all has to be done away with. And I mean, look at the garbage that we mass. I mean, my front yard is full of my old cars.
Well, you need spare parts.
Yeah.
That's what I've been telling my wife.
You know what? One thing I really get mad at is he came down with his truck pulling this ugly, horrible looking skidoo.
Ugly is in the eye
And
of
it's
the
right
beholder.
in front of our porch,
Yeah, but I
right in
need
front
the
of our
motor out of
house.
that.
Huh.
I really don't want it there.
Okay. I can suggest some YouTubes you can look at. But anyway, this is for riches are not forever. The world is scheduled for what?
Destruction.
Destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of caps it off right there. This world is scheduled to be destroyed, and God's going to do what?
Cleanse it. Burn
Going
it.
to recreate it.
Recreate it.
Okay? So, yeah, that's true. Riches are not forever in our context as humans and what we have here. It's going to burn. That's what my wife and I say whenever, a situation turns up where it's a cry and shame that should happen. And why did you lose that? And it's too bad you lost it. And we kind of look at each other and we go, well, it's all going to burn.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's our favorite little saying. It's all going to burn. And riches are not forever.
Well, it's a great out. Yeah. Whenever you goof in life, you can always bring that up because it is, right? I mean, that's the truth of it.
Yeah, for sure. Wednesday's lesson. Wow, they've got a lot of stuff here. 1 Timothy 6:17 all the way down to Ecclesiastes 5:10. It says, looking at all of those, what principles can we take from the following texts regarding how we should deal with money? Let's look at one or two of them, then we can get on to Thursday. 1 Timothy 6:17. Somebody want to read that one?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all the things to enjoy.
Amen.
That's a real good verse for how you should you should deal with money. Okay? Don't put trust in riches, but instead put your trust in God. How about Proverbs 38? Somebody have that one?
Oh, yes. Remove falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food allotted to me. Oh,
Wow. Should they make a T-shirt out of that?
that would make a great T-shirt, wouldn't it?
Oh, people would be reading that and we go, wow, that's
Neither poverty nor riches. Well, poverty's not good for people either. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, but riches are even worse, probably.
True. Money can have a powerful hold on human beings, a hold that has led to the ruin of many. Can you name one in the Bible?
The rich young ruler.
Solomon,
Solomon?
Solomon was ruined more from the many
concubines.
women in his life.
I can name one from today. We've been watching this Alex Murdaugh murder trial.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. The man is
Yes.
incredibly wealthy, and look what he has turned out to be.
Turned him into a monster.
Absolutely.
And that's what Satan does with all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And why? Because the focus is on the goods,
Yep.
not on the giver.
It tends to always be that way. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, that wealth doesn't corrupt everybody that has it. There are people
Right.
who have managed to manage wealth
Yeah.
and not be corrupted by it. But by and large, that seems to be the problem with it. And even in Revelation, we read where the church is rich and in need of nothing. Now, of course, it's talking spiritually here, that we have our fulfillment in life somehow, and we don't need God, but He counsels us to buy gold tried in the fires, which would be trials and tribulations that would soften our hearts and humble us. Ultimately, right? I mean, that's the diagnosis and the cure all in one.
There you go. There you go.
I think Paul could probably appreciate that.
Oh yeah, that's the bottom line. That's where I live. There's about halfway through the bottom half of Wednesday's lesson, it says, in the context of being a good steward in planning for death, one danger that people face is the temptation to hoard assets now, justifying that hoarding with the idea that, well, when I die, I can give it all away. Though better than just spending it all now, one billionaire had said that he knew that he would be living right only if the check for his funeral bounced. What's so funny about that, right? We can and should do better than that.
Perfect.
How do Christians do better than that? What do we lean on?
God.
Okay, God, that's always a good choice.
Well, I think so again, when we have great possession, when God gives us great possession, that gives us an opportunity for continued giving, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And continued
Charitable.
giving is the key here, because we could sell it all and give it all at once, but then we would have nothing. And then how would we continue the continued giving? I think
Right.
what God wants is that ongoing stewardship from us, right? And the idea here is, instead of dying with the most toys, you have, when the end of your legacy ends, you should have expended all of your means, because the closer we get to our last days, the more we should be, I don't know, am I saying this right?
And looking at all the weather throughout the world lately, I mean, with the tidal waves, the tornadoes, the California fires, the earthquakes, and then sinkholes, of all things. I mean, all this stuff can just take what you have and it could be gone in a flash. It's best to put your holdings, your treasures in heaven, and store them in heaven. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we see people's lives, all their whole lives taken from them in an instant, in a fire or a tidal wave.
I'll never forget the image last spring, of that house along the Yellowstone River in the Livingston area, that you could just watch it just and then down into the river.
Oh, and the thing didn't even break up. It was
Didn't
like
break
floating
up.
down
It went
whole.
down like a houseboat
it.
until it got to the bridge, and the bridge skimmed the roof right off the top of the roof. Oh, it was amazing.
Flooding.
And just the whole thing just washed
gone.
down. Yeah, and the real estate and everything that house was attached to is gone.
I was telling Bertha when we first got here, the Yellowstone Park? My parents owned property, not in the Yellowstone Park, but in the Sequoia National Forest. And we were up a little under 7,000 elevation, but it's right where the redwoods began. And and we drank out of the creek. And my dad liked it like this. My grandpa bought 30 acres, $1 an acre. So they were going to cut down every single tree up there. But then Teddy Roosevelt had secured it and made them into the parks. And so I got to grow up right in the park.
Wow.
And now my parents' property burned down 4 years ago, I believe. And my brother ended up with everything, and his wife ended up putting my mom's antiques, because there was a community up there, and everything up there was off the grid. So they had those really old refrigerators that you put the ice in and everything. I mean, everything was made for off grid. Anyhow, I want to go back up there and see it, but I know there's nothing left, and I know a lot of the trees are destroyed. But I almost laughed because I had really thought about this prior, what the Bible has said. And it's really sad. I mean, that was always my home, and I was born and raised there. I always will love those mountains, but it is so true how things just can be gone in a snap.
One last thought on the bottom of Wednesday, and yeah, the sequoias are really beautiful. How does Satan keep money out of God's treasury in most of the situations that go on today? What are some of the things that he does? And yeah, if I can get him to do this, all the things that God has given him are going to be locked up, and it'll never make its way into the spreading of the gospel.
He has convinced people that as they accrue their income, that they need to take care of themselves first.
Like stock market?
And like whatever, it doesn't matter what, as long as he convinces them to take care of themselves first, and then there's nothing left for God. Our attitude should be, when we collect our income, the first thing to go out goes to God.
And that's living by
First
faith.
fruits.
Yes, and then what's left we live on.
Yeah. And that's the difference right there.
How about the concept of 10% is what you're required. It's tithe. How about going 30%, 40%, 50%? What keeps people from doing that?
According to your faith.
Wow.
And I know people that do that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that do that, and I mean, people in this church that just give a tremendous amount. And I've known doctors that have paid, personally my tuition in school, that have drove us to, private school, and drove us to and from, and come to find out later, they weren't just doing that with just us, but with lots of kids, and a great portion of their income, in some cases 60-70% of their income. I mean, they were making a lot of money, but they were giving out more than anybody, really, in percentage wise. And it blew my mind, because you look at these people and you see they're driving in their Beamers and their Mercedes Benz, and quick to judge. Oh, here comes the rich guy. He doesn't struggle for anything in his life. And and then later you find out that he's given so much to God, but God is blessing him in return. They never seem to have a shortage.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it possible to give for the Christian who is walking on the right narrow way? Is it possible for him to give until it hurts?
Sure.
And how is that?
It can become an obsession with people, and it's. I relate it to salvation by works.
That's a dangerous trap.
Yeah, that is. If you're harming your family by giving too much, I think that's wrong.
Anybody else?
I agree with that. Ellen White actually admonished several people that were doing just that. They were impoverishing their family, giving too much, and they weren't required to do that. The according to your faith is something that I don't know, how would we explain that? Because some people do give a huge amount, and God blesses them in perspective of what they give, but then others have given too much, let's say. I've heard stories about missionaries that have given, people their food, and now have starved themselves to the point where they're sick and they're unhealthy and they're unable to complete God's work. Because they're not even taking care of their own personal needs. I've heard these stories before. So, but in their mind, perhaps they're thinking, God will provide, but at some point does that become
An obsession.
no, the other word was presumption.
Oh, well,
Yeah, and obsession. So what's prudent and what's wise in a lot of these situations?
Right.
And God gave us a brain to be thinking about this stuff, not just blindly going into scenarios without using our head. I mean, of course, if we have abundance, we should give our abundance. But if we don't, then I don't know.
Yeah, and then you ask the question: is it an issue of presumption or lack of faith that you keep what you have in your pocket and you're not going to give it away, even if it has something to do with the spreading of the gospel? Do you presume that God is going to bless you for giving it away and impoverishing potentially your family? Or
Well, and just to be clear, we're not talking about the 10%. We're talking about over and above.
Yeah.
Right.
Because God does require at least
Yes.
10% from everybody.
yeah.
And so that is guaranteed a blessing. But then above and beyond that.
I don't even think about it. When I get paid, once a month I write my tithe check, and I transfer a certain amount over to Ruth's account, which is like the family account. And she is the one who does the donations. Okay? I don't even think about that. The only time I think about it is when I start putting the tax information together and figuring out how in the world can we give that much. We have everything we need and most of what we want.
And I can vouch for Dave here.
It's just,
Yeah.
Dave gives an awful lot.
no, it's not that. It's
I know what you're saying.
We are so
I know what
blessed.
you're saying. Yeah, you're
We are
given to
in
the
want
point
of
where when you're
nothing.
looking at your financial situation, you're going, how are we able to live this well on so little?
exactly.
When we're given this amount away, we should be keeping this amount to be living the way we are.
And we used to do it.
And that's what my husband always says. Why? I can't believe it. Oh, that is a lot. But God
Yeah.
blesses us.
God always
with
blesses.
health
Yes.
and everything we need.
It's blessed. Yeah.
I was going to say this winter has been hard on us financially. We have been at home for a good 5 months, off and on with little tiny jobs. We have made it. We made it through the death of Brianna and helping Levi. So now we have an extra person there taking showers and eating, and he eats a lot. And and when our neighbors come over, I offer what I have. But we have really struggled. I mean, financially. But God has always fed us. I
We're
remember,
warm and we're fat and sassy.
yeah,
so,
we are.
I
And
mean,
when I never will forget this. My children were really little, and my mom said, I asked my mom for money, $200. My mom says, I don't know. Go to the kitchen and look in the sink. And I said, oh, Mom, there's nothing but a bunch of dirty dishes in there. And she says, well, you've been taken care of. You've been eating, and you're just fine. And so, I never will forget that. It was a simple thing, but it's very wise.
There's a list of texts to read on Thursday's lesson. We're going to skip over to that. Spiritual legacy. And it's interesting. Psalms 24:1, Hebrews 3:4, et cetera there. And it says, what is the central point in all those verses?
The central point.
The central point is, interestingly, it's all very close together. If you look up Psalms 24:1, it says the earth is God's. Hebrews 3:4, God built all things. Psalms 50:10, all the beasts are God's. Genesis 14:9, he possesses heaven and earth. God created all things. Well, who do you think owns everything here then?
It's not me.
It's not us.
God.
We're just caretakers of what God gives us during our life. And it really does lend support to the fact that you can give it back to God's work at the end of your life, and that's really what you should be doing. God has lend those things to you. You're supposed to use them for the spreading of the gospel and then give them back to someone else in the work. That way, the gospel work, the support, the financial support of it is never without. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it. My microphone thing broke.
No.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was my handiwork. They gave you short little, tiny little screws to put in there, and I guess I wrenched on it a little too hard. But yeah, so, anyways,
You
There
know,
at my house, I have lots of buckets of screws.
I brought my work van today, so I'm gonna run out there right after this is over and
Yeah,
screw it right
yeah.
back down.
you know,
Okay.
Carrie's father just passed away about a month ago, and he gave away all his assets. He's an Adventist, and he was a hermit. He just did artwork, and he gave away everything he had, and so there was just really nothing there
Well,
anymore.
he's a good example of somebody who,
Live frugal.
yeah, he had no retirement. He had no money saved. He worked until the day he died. He died quickly. He got a brain tumor, and he was gone in just a matter of a few weeks, which was really good for us as a family.
Yeah, he was
The last thing
healthy.
you want to see,
Yeah. To that
your
point.
pops do is linger and perish slowly, or any of your loved ones, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I mean, he was the last thing that he was doing was actually carving this right here.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
It's a
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Nebuchadnezzar. And so I don't know if you guys can zoom in on that or not. But so he was doing some artwork for the church, and that was the last thing that he did, and the church received the artwork. And so they've got that down there. I guess they're going to use it for evangelistic purposes or whatever. But
So it shows you can do good things with your money, right?
Yeah.
yeah, well, he didn't have much, but what he had, he gave, and
He gave.
that's the point, right?
gave.
Yep.
and gave.
Amen. Amen. All right, let's go to Friday's lesson. I always like to pick out a piece of that lesson and read it for the end of our lesson study today. It says down at the bottom, if you want to follow along, for the Christian, the second coming of Christ is the blessed hope. We all have imagined how awesome it will be to see Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven. We are eager to hear the words, well done. But what if we should be laid to our rest before Jesus returns? If we have followed his revealed will, we can have the satisfaction now of seeing the work go forward because of our efforts, knowing that because of our estate plan, the work will continue after we are gone. Isn't that cool? You have a legacy.
It's awesome.
That's the legacy, and that is to bring as many people in as we possibly can. Who was it? Was it Schindler?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a great movie.
Yeah, and then, but upon his death, he discovered he had more wealth or something like that, and he was grieved because he could have done so much more.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
And so that should be our sentiment, exactly right. Just that, that we could have done much more. Had we had more faith, that we had more trust in God, whatever it is, we could always do more.
Don't be a person who regrets that they could have.
Yeah. Though. Yeah.
Better said.
Yes.
Better said.
Yes.
So, but thanks, Paul, for teaching, man. Hey, we're out of time, folks. If you guys wouldn't mind, smash that thumbs up button just immediately. If you guys haven't already subscribed, consider doing so. We have Sabbath School live every morning, Sabbath, 9 o'clock Mountain Time. And we're also on Rumble, Facebook, and a couple other platforms. Just look for us on Prophecy Montana. We're also on TikTok. I just started some TikTok videos, so you guys might want to check that out as well. So with that, we'll say goodbye. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.